are you business owner or you have product to sell, but we get to a point where we don't know what to say, or sometimes we know it takes a lot of time to say a couple of which can be said in a few words. You are not alone. I have a today with me is media trainer, CEO of Media Interviews Trainer, media coach, executive communication, and public speaking trainer. So she has been on many TV stations like CNN and popular ones. The list is big, so let me bring my guest. And okay, Susan Harrow. Welcome, Susan.
Thank you. So happy that we've met through LinkedIn.
Let me start with this. Where were you? What happened? Who were you surrounded with that inspired you to do what you do today?
Who inspired me? I think it was really a combination of I have a background in sales and high-tech sales, and I was an English major majoring in Shakespeare, and I wanted to marry those two things. So I actually asked a woman in one of my writing classes who was working with the North Face and Bill Graham Presents if I could trail her and just see what she did to see if I wanted to do PR. And so it was sort of like baptism by fire. She just said, at that time we were doing a lot of calls. It was before the internet. So she said, just jump on the phone and start booking our clients on, radio, TV. There were not podcasts then either, and print. And so I said, oh, gee, do you think that I could listen to you do a call first? And then she did a couple of calls, and then I just jumped in and started doing it and started interviewing clients. And my first client was Missy Park of Title IX Sports. And at that time, she was a one-person business in a warehouse. And now she is one of the top companies that has the offering of women's athletic wear. So she grew and I grew.
Wonderful. What are top three mistakes to avoid?
Well, I think what happens is that people rush to call the media and then they have like an what moment. So really with CEOs, business leaders, entrepreneurs, the first mistake is that they don't have their messaging down. They don't know exactly what they want to say to drive and grow business. So that's number one. Number two is they're not prepared for those trick questions that can actually ruin your reputation in a second, then and permanently, because now with the internet, you can't take anything back. Once you have spoken something in a video, on a podcast, or on a blog, any kind of media, it's out there forever and anyone can find it. And there's a system called LexisNexis that all of the reporters and editors and anyone can access. And so if you've got a quote or information in there, that can be accessed forever. So it's super important to have your key messaging and never say anything that you wish you hadn't, because it can ruin your business and brand in the moment and permanently. And number three is then how to leverage that business, how to actually, what do you say during a media interview that is going to drive that kind of business? And then how do you leverage those placements? So once you get a placement, how can it expand your publicity and grow your brand? And what I want to say to everyone out there is really today, there's a really big difference between being digitally known and being known in the broader public. And somebody had asked me a question on LinkedIn and said, well, I have a digital presence. Why would I need PR? And anyone who wants to really grow their brand and become a leader in the space, in the industry, PR is the way to go, that gives you the kind of credibility and visibility that gets you those big contracts, that gets you the consulting gigs, that can get you a book deal, a TED Talk. That is the fastest way to do it.
What is your greatest failure story? What did you learn and how did you recover from it?
I know, I was really thinking about this year. I was thinking, I don't know that I've told this story publicly before, but right after college, I traveled to Europe and I had a graduation present from my parents of $2,000 so I could live in Europe and Paris for a year. So I was traveling all around and I was in Milan and I was approached by someone. I stayed there a couple of days and we became friends. And he said, do you want to earn some money? And I'm thinking, yes. And he said, well, what I want you to do is take these watches from Italy and just jump on the train. And when you go back to Paris, all you have to do is transport these watches and you'll get paid for it. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm going to make my parents proud. I'm here in Paris. I'm earning money. And so he brought out these watches, Cartier, Baume & Mercier, Patek Philippe, these beautiful watches. And then we went to this place in Italy, this person's house, and it was some scary guy. And there was this big painting on the wall and he shifted the painting aside and inside was a gun. Inside a safe was a gun. And I'm thinking, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into here? And I left and then I paid this man the money, almost the $2,000 that I had. I took the watches and I went to the address that he told me to go to, which was a watch shop in Paris. And the man who was there said, no, I'm not expecting any watches. And he looked at the watches and he said, Je suis désolé, madame. I'm very sorry, madame, but these watches are fake. I'm like, what? Yes, they are fake. They are not worth anything. And so I had lost all of my money. I kept $100. He even wanted that, but I kept $100. And so I had to then get a job in Paris with no money, with $100 to my name, and I didn't speak French. So I was really helped by this very kind person who helped me find a family to live with so I could survive in Paris. And you said, what did I learn from that? Well, first of all, I learned to trust my gut because I had a twinge like, this wasn't right, but I was so intent on making my parents proud and being able to support myself that I didn't listen to that. And I think that was probably the biggest lesson. But also, I really learned that there are always people who want to help and to let them help. And it was really through the kindness of strangers that I found that family and that I, survived. And I actually did find another, so some other jobs on the side as well. But it was through that kindness of strangers.
What are top 3 secrets that others can success secrets that others can follow?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first one is to be curious about everyone and everything. And the second is when you tell the truth, do it kindly. What else is super important to me? Bring joy everywhere you go. And I think one of the most important things that I found is your presence, is just being 100% there and actually listening. And I think that people, like I remember I was talking to this woman at a retreat I was on and we were in a conversation and she stopped and she said, you know what, you're really listening to me. You're not just waiting to talk. And I said, yeah. And I think that that's rare today where so many people want their 15 minutes of fame and that they want to move forward with their own agenda, is to really stop and I don't know why it's so hard, but it seems in this culture it is really hard to be here now and to just experience this moment. And that's true for media training too. I do want to say we plan, prepare, and practice so you can be free to be spontaneous. But the key to that, yes, we want your key messages, but it's really to be open and aware and be there with the person that's interviewing you in that in that medium moment. So there's an opportunity to engage with that person and to share something spontaneous that comes into your head that may be right for that very moment that you may not have prepared. Yes, I want you to be prepared and to get your points out. And at the same time, I want that kind of engagement. You know, and I've worked with clients sometimes where they've got everything memorized and they just want to get it out, and that doesn't work either. It's about the kind of freedom and flow when you have your main points. It's not about the memorizing, it's about getting out the key. And I'd much rather have somebody be natural than get out the perfect words, but have them be a little stilted and not sound natural. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, that's very flowable. So you have a structure and the points, and then you still open to the what is coming, being curious, as you mentioned. So that's amazing. We are entering into speed round. That means quick questions and quick answers. Are you ready for it?
You did not warn me about this, mister. And this is what often happens in a meeting interview, right? Like, Bashir sent me these questions, many of which he has not asked. And now we're going into a speed round that he didn't prepare me for. So this should be fun. Thanks, Bashir.
What is the most impactful business book you have read, and what did you learn from it?
So it's How to Win Friends and Influence People by, I've forgotten his name. Anyway, Dale Carnegie. And I love that book because I think people are everything, and pets. So people really, the connection. E.M. Forrester said only connect. And I think that's super important in life, as in business, as well as in media. It's about that connection, because when you connect to one person, you really connect to millions. And it's the same with a speech too. It's like when you start connecting, people always say, how do I connect with everyone? It's about really connecting one person at a time, and everybody feels it. And so I love that book. It's a classic.
Susan, I know you're author yourself, but please show us your book and tell us why audience should read your book.
That's another question you said. So, Sell Yourself Without Selling Your Soul, published by HarperCollins. And anyone who would like to promote themselves with integrity and spirit, who maybe is a little bit shy about it. Like I'm a trained extrovert. I'm a natural introvert. So I even get really nervous for these kind of interviews too. So, I still have a little bit of butterflies in my stomach. That's okay. It's about translating that into excitement or just reframing it. So I wrote the book for anyone who was hesitant about promoting themselves and felt like they couldn't be themselves. And I think that's one of the hardest things that I found with training thousands of people in workshops, one-on-one and virtual workshops, and CEO. It doesn't matter whether you're a CEO or you're just beginning your business. I think people's main concern is that they can't be themselves, and how to do that while being natural and while being in sync with your offer. So everything you do, say, are, and think needs to be in alignment before you reach out to the media, so everything makes sense to your potential clients and customers. So if that's something that you want to do, if you want to promote yourself and by being yourself, this is good for you.
What do you want to be remembered for?
I want to be remembered to bring joy everywhere I go. And is this the question, Bashir, where I'm talking about my bigger vision? Or is that something, because I do have a bigger vision for what I do? Is this the right time to talk about it?
Yeah, sure. It's yeah.
Yeah. So my big vision is I love to work with people who are impacting the world, impacting thousands or millions in a big way. And I also am open to like a chocolate client. So some of my clients are, a new client is an autistic lawyer who talks about neurodiversity and how your quote unquote any kind of perceived impairment is really your superpower and strength. And another client is industrializing hemp. So he's revolutionizing the economy, the environment, and also, what was the last one? Um, I can't remember the last one, but it's really about transforming our economy through hemp. So it's, being able to heat and build up buildings and that sort of thing. So my big vision ultimately is to work with those people who are changing the world, but I would love to work with billionaires like Tom Steyer. And I'll tell you why. It's not about, it's what it's about is that they can affect change without going through the laws or the political system and without being constrained by money. So they are the kind of people who can implement change in a moment with their own resources. So anyone out there who wants to own their message more for whatever their vision is in the world, those are the kind of people that I love working with most. And then the secondary kind of people is, anyone with a business, with product, service, or cause, and especially like new food and educational technology. But any kind of food product, I'm always open to a chocolate client or some snacks to kind of I like the balance between working with people who have, are doing really important things in the world, preventing sexual slavery, solving world hunger, communicating, really bringing together, racial and gender inequality with something lighter like a product that's delicious or delightful.
How do you overcome a challenge life throws at you?
Say again?
How do you overcome a challenge life throws at you?
Well, gosh, I've had lots of challenges. I think that the first thing that I do is I'm a black belt in Aikido. So it's about when you're thrown off center to take a breath and to move back to center. And so the breath is everything. So just taking that breath, moving back to center. And then I typically call all my friends and then sort it out and get everybody's thoughts on it. And then I typically think about it, meditate on it, and do that while I'm walking or washing the dishes, to taking a shower, just let my mind go, and asking for the solution to come to me in some super clear form. And then I wait for that time before I move forward.
Once you have a revenue generating idea,
I take action. I tend to take action and make the decision and move forward.
once you have a revenue generating idea, how do you convince your significant other?
I was baffled by that because I've never convinced my significant other of an idea. He's a screenwriter, and he was a former executive at Pixar and had worked at a lot of big studios. And he is so incisive that he doesn't talk much, but when I come to him with an issue or an idea, he usually has a laser focused thought that is like the perfect solution. So I do run, and he doesn't know anything about the internet and Facebook and all of that. He's very, he's just not into that whole world. So his perspective is always super fresh. So I don't convince him, I listen to him.
What are you grateful for today?
Being here with you, Bashir, that you asked me to do this interview. And I was actually pretty excited about it, as well as nervous. And I think that I love these kinds of interviews because you never, just like media, you never know where they can go, who they can touch, or who's going to see it. And I think about like, what do I, so I'm always open to these kind of opportunities. And I think for you in the audience, like, never pass up an opportunity, even if you're nervous like this, because you never know who it can touch. And I think that's what we're all looking for, is to touch another person with our business, book, product, service, or cause, to connect to other people. I think that's really the bottom line to all of this. So I'm grateful for you to have invited me on your wonderful show.
Who is your living mentor, and what is the impact they have on you?
The person that comes to mind is Michelle Obama. And I love Michelle Obama because she's like, she's a, a regular person, and she's also like a superhero. And she really gets important things done, and she does it with humor and grace. And I mean, I wish she would run for president. I know she's got a lot on her plate now, but I really admire her and aspire to that kind of fluidity and organization, and really keeping things that are important to her front and center. I think she does such a beautiful job of that. That's inspiring to me.
Why is being impactful important to you?
You know, it makes me feel good, and then when I feel good, that translates out into the world. I think there's a lot of people who want to change the world, but I think it really comes down to mastering yourself. When you master yourself, then you can master your message, you can master the media, you can master the world. And that's one of the principles of Aikido, is turning lead into gold. And I'm always looking to that, to turn my own lead, of which there is plenty, into gold. And I really think that we are like three people at once. We are our former selves, the person who we are in the past, our present self, who is us right now, and our future self. And that's the person who we want to become. And we're always in the process of becoming and moving toward that future self and that becoming.
How do you start your day?
I start my day with different meditations. So the first one is called the One Command. The second is I do tapping. And then the third is I just meditate. And then I feed the kitties, make some delicious bulletproof coffee, and begin from there. Oh, and I always cuddle with my sweetie. Yeah. That is one of the wonderful beginnings of my day.
What is the advice you would give to your younger self?
Don't worry on it so hard. And I could still take that advice today.
How can we support you?
Well, I would love to support you. I have lots of resources at prsecrets.com. There are plenty of free offerings. One is called the 100-word email that can get the media to call you, but I have lots of other free offerings. Just look under free goodies. And also, if you're ready to take a class, I'm in the process of rebranding, so there's going to be a very different offering there, but there'll be a new offering called the Zen of Fame, Your Genius Gone Viral. So if you want to do it yourself, that will be the course for you. If you are ready for one-on-one, then there's a form to fill out to connect with me. I'd love to work with you to do media training and marketing strategic planning if you are looking to have your business and brand out in the world, using media training combined with PR, which is the media placements to get you on those programs, podcasts, TV, radio, print, blogs. And also, if people want, I also work with clients who don't necessarily want to do media, meaning they're not doing a PR campaign, but they do want to grow their thought leadership or their internal communications within their own company. So I've worked with a $40 billion company. I've worked with a couple of their leaders to expand their leadership presence. Oh, and the other thing, Bashir, that I really love to do is anyone going for, anyone who is going for funding. So any kind of startup where you've got a new idea, I love to work with, whether you're a teenager or a millennial or a Gen Z or someone closer to my age who has a startup and you are looking for funding. I media train you to your presence, to your leadership, so that the VCs buy into you as the person who would lead the company to success.
What would you say about your guest experience on the show today?
It's been lovely. Thank you, Bashir. You have some very interesting questions that are really thought-provoking, and I appreciate having to think about them. And that's the process that I use with my clients too. It's really thinking about your values and what's important to you. Your values, your mission, your message all come together when you are speaking in public in any way, that should all come through your presence, your words, your spirit.
What would you say as a final word?
Anything is possible, and take action, take mini actions always towards your goal. One of the questions I ask myself just every day is, what is my next step? And that way, because sometimes I think our big vision is really intimidating, and we don't always know how to move toward that big vision or what we want in life. So not knowing the answer is perfectly fine. I think a lot of people, we think we have to know the answer. I just keep asking that question. What do I need to see next? What do I need to do next? Who do I need to meet? To me, that's one of the most important things, is who do I need to meet? And then you popped in, so you popped into my LinkedIn feed. I don't know how that happened exactly. And I think that's part of the magic of asking the question and then looking for the kinds of things that show up. That to me has been, that's a constant practice.
Susan, thank you so much for your time and wisdom. On the behalf of Entrepreneur Empowerment Club and our entire team, really appreciate you. I hope our path cross again with another amazing topic. Until then, you have a wonderful time.
Thank you. Me too. Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.